Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're joining from. Thanks for being here with us today. My name is Malcolm Kerr. I'm a VP of Marketing here at Cystine, and it is my pleasure to introduce our presenters today. Gage Hollingsworth, our Director of Solutions Engineering. Gage has been talking to heavy materials producers for a long time about the product that we're very excited to show you all today, our Backlog product. And we have Nick Parkinson here, our Director of Product Management, Commercial and Delivery Solutions. We're so excited to review the content here today. A little housekeeping before we dive in. If you have any questions for the presenters, in the top right corner, you should see something that says chat, Q&A sections in there. So type those in. We'll do Q&A at the end of the session. So without further ado, other than that, I'll pass the microphone over to Gage and Nick so they can walk us through Backlog.
Thanks, Malcolm. Jumping right in. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Here is what we will cover today. We'll talk you through your forecasting blind spots, why spreadsheets are not the right solution, and then we'll, of course, introduce our product, Backlog, that lives within Slabstack. We'll walk you through a live demo, try and answer all your questions at the end, and that is it. So right over to kind of the intro of Backlog here. So everybody can read slides, so I'm not going to read slides at you guys, but everybody has a pretty built out solution for tracking leads, getting your sales pipeline through to the one jobs. But most of the time, from what we see, those are not a solidified process where everybody does the same thing. Some people might use spreadsheets. Some people might just keep everything in their brain. Others use Post-it notes all over their desk. What we're doing is giving you a platform to organize your pipeline and track that through to your actual delivery to the one jobs. So that's what we'll walk you through today. And Gage, you want to start us off?
Absolutely. Thank you, Nick. So, like Nick just mentioned, oftentimes there is that blind spot when you are looking at your forecast and your backlog. A lot of that has to do with that static data that it might be across disconnected systems. It might be a spreadsheet that has not been updated recently. And then, of course, when you're operating in static spreadsheets or disconnected systems, the automation does not happen. They operate in different silos, and it just makes it much more difficult for sales managers, salesmen themselves to track, hey, what volume is being quoted? What is being forecast? And then what volume is actually being shipped out the door? And then, of course, is that volume on schedule? So that quiet slippage, it happens. It's much easier said than done to track these things accurately. And that's really what the Backlog product is here to do. We want to make sure that we are aware of projects, aware of volume before it is too late to recover. Maybe that project end date is approaching, maybe weather has changed the plans, or maybe the scope of that project has changed, and therefore sales teams need to update that volume to make sure that revenue is being captured and tracked correctly. And that takes us around just a high level overview about how some different producers and companies might manage this today. We touched on it briefly, those manual exports between CSV and Excel files, cross-referencing, again, back on static sheets. This can take a lot of man hours. It can take a lot of man time. How much time is spent doing tedious manual data entry, whether that's exporting it from one system to then track it across a spreadsheet. Again, we want to eliminate a lot of that manual data entry so that your team can focus on higher priority tasks rather than sitting here in front of the computer doing that manual, tedious data entry, which we all struggle with no matter what your role might be. And then, of course, using this outdated spreadsheets, these manual workflows, trying to cross-reference different volumes across different accounts, it's very easy to make mistakes. You might put in an extra zero or an extra digit in a spreadsheet. Now those calculations are off. And again, time consuming. It's very easy to fall behind. Again, you've got customers calling, projects moving, and you are stuck in front of a computer manually updating this entry to make sure they backlog and actual volume shipped. So high level overview, how is that managed today? Which brings us to some of the, that operational cost and opportunity cost, even about how this volume is being tracked too late. So just an example, you quoted somebody at 500 yards. And once the job has been awarded, you might notice that, wait a second, we're missing some volume. We have shipped 340 yards. That project is wrapped up or is quickly approaching, and we need to get more volume out there. So that revenue was counted, but not collected. Nobody likes rectifying the revenue later, especially when you are bringing that revenue down. So hopefully this can be an early warning system to make sure we're tracking that. And then you can run blind and not know that, wait a second, that project ends on the 30th in 5 days. We need to get 500 more yards there to meet that deadline and that goal. So let's go ahead and start talking with the customer, getting trucks to the plant early and moving that volume ahead of time. And then also you might have a sales team, operations teams, finance teams, accounting teams, whatever it might be, looking at different static spreadsheets. Maybe one is looking at a CSV file from Q2. The other one is looking at a current Excel spreadsheet from Q3. And are there discrepancies across that volume? I don't know. It's easier. It's more difficult to track that across these different systems.
So we've said it a couple times. I'll say it again. All this data already exists in separate systems. We are consolidating it for you, putting it in one place where multiple teams, multiple people across those teams can all review, manage, and report on. So the line here at the bottom kind of says it all. We're giving you one live view that you can slice and dice by any metric that you're interested in. Recently, we've added market and salesperson filtering as well. We'll get more into that when Gage shows you the demo. Go ahead. All right. So Backlog, it works across, I want to say it right at the front, works across all your product verticals. So if you are a producer that sells aggregates, sells asphalt, sells ready mix, or one of those, or any combination, your backlog report can show you all of those in one place. We'll connect with all your dispatch systems and give you that live comparison across whatever slice you want to look at it, whether it's region, market, salesperson. Touched on those a moment ago. Again, what this is doing is giving you that early identification of where jobs might be at risk and give you the opportunity to course correct. The biggest thing here is taking this reporting, this custom report building off of your team. We're doing it for you and making that very easy. So we've not seen a lot of good examples by producers that have reports like this. It's very, very cumbersome to build these actionable reports. And so we're excited to provide that to you. And we're confident that it will add a lot of value to your business. Go ahead. So it's quite simple at the core of it. What we're doing is looking at the backlog, which is just sold minus shipped to date, sliced across different metrics based on what you want to see. So your forecasts are considered, your sold volumes are considered, your shipped volumes are all considered and put into the one nice dashboard. You can also export out of Slabstack and slice and dice a little bit further to your heart's desire. So now I think Gage will jump into a live demo.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Nick. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the product itself. So this is the backlog feature in Slabstack. You're going to notice it is over here on the left-hand side of the menu. And let's take a look at some of these fields that we've touched upon. So the main thing is going to be these 4 headline metrics, these cards that are populated here. On the left-hand side, we are looking at that quoted volume that has been sent over to the dispatch or ticketing software. Next, we're going to see that forecasted volume tied into your sales pipeline, tied into the opportunities your sales team is pursuing, hoping to award. Next, we're going to look over here at the outstanding backlog. As Nick just mentioned, the backlog is going to be the sold volume that has not yet been delivered. And then on the right side of our screen, you're going to notice the actual volume. This is showing the current month, how much volume has been shipped in the month of August 2026. And you might have noticed when I just hovered over some of these cards, if you're ever curious when you're in the platform, you're like, okay, what exactly did the quoted volume mean again? Well, if you hover over this little icon here on either one of these cards, it will populate a nice synopsis about what exactly this number is and how did it get there. And again, that is for each one of these, just a nice user-friendly interface to make it streamlined and help you manage the business accordingly. As Nick also mentioned, we do cover the 3 main product lines, ranging from aggregates, asphalt, and then ready-mix concrete. We also can create various markets and divisions, which anybody in Slabstack knows we already have that set up. But you can also analyze any of these specific metrics or cards by using an individual or combination of sales reps. And then you can also drill down on specific projects or group of projects. So there's quite a few different ways you can come in here and analyze this data on the fly in a very user-friendly format. And every card here, when it talks about, you might notice there are some percentages in the lower right of them. These cards reflect the month-over-month change across the various product types and various projects. So that's kind of the high level. And again, if you ever needed to export this data, talk about how well you did in Q2 2026 and ask for a raise, well, that button is up here in the top right. Bring it to your sales manager and go ahead and back up your statements with hard data. So scrolling on down here on this individual screen, we have a project grid, a dashboard overview. And in this project grid, what we're looking at here is the quoted volume compared to the forecast for that specific project. That actual volume here is going to show what has actually been shipped. And this volume, again, is pulled from the dispatch or ticketing software. So this is real data. And just like in the top, anytime you see these little icons next to the word, just a nice creature comfort, make it very user-friendly, hover over that, and it tells you what is going on for the forecast on the specific project. Now, something to flag when we discuss the variance, I don't actually own any concrete plants, nor do I own any concrete trucks. Therefore, the actual volume shipped, we populated some with some mock data, but the variance is not calculated accurately. This is that difference between the forecast and what has actually been shipped. You might see a negative value. That means the actual volume is not on track for the project. That volume is not shipped. The start date for that project is listed down here. I'll show you some other data here. First dispatch date, this is saying, hey, the first dispatch ticket we received was for this specific project, August 10th. And then you can see the last dispatch date was also in August 10th. Now, why don't these top projects here with the dispatch date, they do not have a start date. They don't have an end date. Well, I'm glad you asked. That is because these projects are actually pulling ticket data from the Cystine Concrete Go dispatch system, but they did not originate in Slabstack. They did not have a start date. They did not have an end date. Think about a small COD order where a lot of that information is skipped and it's not created in Slabstack. Rest assured, Slabstack still pulls that volume in, even though it was not originating from the Slabstack system. That way you can have a complete picture of the volume that is actually being shipped. And again, hover over it on the left and you can see, hey, this data is imported from dispatch, does not exist in Slabstack. So that's kind of the high level overview there. Let me scroll on down because before we move on to a different tab, we do also location and market and division performance. So when you scroll down to location performance, what we are looking at is, hey, what is the budget and capacity for the individual plant? And then if we are under target, this means that the volume sold is below our budget and below the goal that we would like to reach. If we are over target, if we are stretching ourselves too thin, imagine here at plant 22, my capacity for the year is under 5,000 yards. If this forecast were to be reading 15,000 yards, well, how can I get an extra 10,000 yards from plant 22? I most likely can't. And this under target figure would therefore be red and show that we are stretching this plant too thin. And it's going to be very difficult to service all of that volume if every one of these projects are awarded. Another thing to call out before we take a look at a little bit different interface here is that all of these fields in this data, it updates automatically. There is not a manual pull or export required. So again, very user-friendly. You do not need to come in here and refresh. All of this happens in a very streamlined workflow. Nick, do you have anything to add before I take a look at any of the project details?
Nope, you nailed it.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Moving along to the next tab, which is project details. Now, very similar interface about what we were just looking at, only the project details allows you to drill down further across the various projects themselves. So there's one row per project, and we're again looking at the quoted, and forecast, as well as the actual volume, and then that variance, which is the discrepancy. The estimated start times and end times, which we looked at, you can filter, of course, again, by location and division, as well as market. But more importantly, let me click into one of these projects and just take a look. Let's do Texas A&M, gig 'em. Any of our Texas folks on the call? Go ahead and open up the Texas A&M Stadium extension. And what we're looking at here is the monthly product breakdown. So these red cards here, I had a forecast and then a backlog of 250. This is basically saying, hey, Gage, you are not shipping volume on schedule. So please be aware that all of these months, I have not shipped the volume correctly. And if I had aggregates involved in this specific project as well, you're going to notice you can just click on aggregates. So these monthly product breakdowns are across product types. They will show you what the forecast is, how much was quoted, what was the actual volume shipped, and then that variance or the discrepancy across. And if you are meeting that timeline and volume goal, the month will not be red. Hopefully, I know all of your businesses are always on time and never have any issues. So I expect you to not have any red cards showing up here. That's the monthly breakdown. We take it one step further because you might have various products attached to this specific project. Here on my product breakdown, I do have different quantities of different mix designs. Maybe your slab on grade flat work is exceeding schedule. You have delivered 100% of that volume, but for whatever reason, the curb work, the sidewalks, whatever, maybe that volume hasn't shipped yet because, again, maybe it's rained, maybe the project is simply behind, or the scope has changed. So again, we want to make this data very user-friendly, accessible to end users at a glance to make sure these projects are moving on according to the plan. And again, you can have various product types, various monthly schedules, and all of that is tracked in an automated workflow tied back to your first ticketed dispatch date, as well as that last ticketed date, and then that project end date. And maybe somebody would donate a ready mix truck to me so I can start populating my volume better. But right here would show you, hey, Gage, if you have shipped 50 yards of that top 100 yard 4,000 PSI, we would have delivered 50 of that load. So pretty straightforward math in this example, but that is what we're looking at when we talk about specific project breakdown, opening up the drawer by product, month, and those other variants and actual quantities. So next tab we're going to take a look at is going to be the customer performance. And the customer performance is where we can do customer scorecards with real data pulled from dispatch and then compare it to the sales data that originates from Slabstack. So it ranks these customers by active projects. We will show what is their average load size, what is the actual quantity that is being shipped and delivered to that customer, which that is all great and good to know. But then what about that average wait time? Once these trucks using Delivery Go, it enters that geofence at the plant site. And we'll say, well, wait a second, how long till the truck is at the job site till that material is actually being unloaded? And we can, maybe your customers are crushing it. Like this customer, their average wait time between entering that geofence and unloading is about 3 minutes. If this were to say 30 minutes, that might give me some data to reach out to a customer, maybe have a little bit more difficult conversation around the cost per cubic yard increasing because they are holding your trucks too long. And then again, that average unload time tied to your specific customer. I don't have great data here as this is fake. This volume is not shipping. It's not leaving the plant, but we just want to make sure that just because a customer is accepting a lot of volume doesn't always mean they are that profitable, which again, tied to Slab is where we have that price optimization and margin control. And if you can see your margins are really getting too low, yet you're quoting it accurately, then that might be time to look at a customer scorecard to see what is that wait time and unload time, which is therefore eating into the producer's profitability. So if I wanted to look at the specific customer, I would simply click on the hyperlink and see all these active projects. And you can drill down very quickly to see what's going on, quickly spot who your best customers are. And then hopefully you don't have too many, but you might have some customers that are actually increasing your overhead cost and eating into that profitability. eating into that margin control, which we are all about here at Slabstack. So that is some of the customer performance, how we are looking at the specific customers, metrics tied to them, and hoping that we can maximize profitability by working with customers that operate with a sense of urgency and understand that, especially unload time and wait time at the job site, if we can minimize that, it's better for everybody. So now that we have looked at the scorecards here at the top, we've also looked at that dashboard overview. We've drilled down on the specific projects that have the monthly breakdown as well as the individual product breakdown. And each one of these products are tracked with their own metrics to make sure that those products are moving according to the plan. It's great to have all this data, but how do we get it in front of the end user in a usable format in a timely manner? Well, that's going to be the last tab kind of in the center of my screen called alerts and actions. So I'm going to go ahead and click on our alerts and actions and let's discuss some of these various fields. So alerts and actions, they want to surface the projects that need a second look. Now, what does that mean by a second look? It could be that the project end date is approaching. It could be that the project is way overdue, which is my top example here. This project was supposed to be done back in March. We are now in August. The start project delay, saying we're supposed to start it then and end it here, just like we were just looking at, but it gets a little bit deeper. We do have some volume variance alerts. And then one, just to be honest, that sales struggles with as a guy who's been in sales a while, missing information, right? For the overarching business management team to accurately forecast revenue, to accurately forecast volume and budget constraints, it's important that projects and sales opportunities have a start date affiliated with it and have an end date affiliated with it, which I cleaned up all my data before this. So I would never have any data that is missing a key piece, rest assured. Don't ask my boss. But if I did have any projects here that were missing these key fields, it alerts them to the team to say, hey, your forecast is going to be off because you don't have any time constraints tied to the material. It's very important that we put that information in. Same thing with the project end date approaching, or if we simply do not have any forecast volume. So these alerts, again, we want to pull opportunities, pull projects and bring them in front of sales teams, in front of sales managers that you can quickly get a glance, quickly update your information on the fly to make sure that the volume, end dates, start dates are all in alignment and accurate. Now, another nice thing to call out here when it comes to these various alerts, again, you can click on a hyperlink and it's going to take you directly to the specific projects, which allows you to look at the products, the volumes, the forecast, the margin that is attached. What is the cost per cubic yard? What type of truck type is hauling the aggregates? All of that exists here underneath that project link. But something else you can also do, this project, again, was supposed to start back in March. Maybe this project never moved forward, right? The scope change is simply not happening. I can simply click mark as lost and it opens up that drawer. Check it out. All the project information is here. So if I mark it as lost, we need to go ahead and add a reason why, such as maybe responsiveness. They just ghosted me and never got back. Maybe it was the price for the delivery. They wanted you to ship concrete 105 miles. You're like, okay, well, I don't want to do that. Your cost per yard is too high. But again, when it opens up this drawer and mark it as lost, it also allows you to come down here and see who the buyer was, what products and locations are we pulling from, what quantity and volume are tied to that forecast. And you can also update that start date, end date, bid date, expiration, all from one interface. I'm going to simply mark this project as lost. I'm going to say that the price was too high for the customer. Customer wanted $100 per cubic yard, and I'm simply not going to sell at that price. It's a race to the bottom, doesn't help anybody. Go ahead and hit save. Now that project has been updated. It is no longer flagged as an alert. It will clear out from your interface and it will pull up a next project on the fly. The next button here, if I wanted to come up and say, all right, what if I need to update the start date? Again, that project was back in March. It highlights the start date. You can bump this forward and say, hey, permitting stalled. This project took forever to get approval. Now we're going to say, instead of starting it back in March, we're going to start that project here coming up soon in September, which is very hard to believe. We are already in September. But now I went ahead and updated that project and it cleared out from my list of alerts. You're also going to notice I can undo that mark as lost. So like everything in Slabstack, we are always trying to improve. We are always trying to make it very user-friendly from an interface and a workflow perspective. But for the most part, I think we have covered the majority of the backlog features and functionality. I know everybody is busy today, so I do not want to continue to ramble on and talk about things we've already taken a look at. That said, Nick, is there anything that you think I should highlight before we kind of look over at some questions?
No, you nailed it. That just want to re-highlight again. We've got the export option. I know we're consistently getting requests for tweaks to this, and we're trying to accommodate the ones that make sense and can be applied across our customer base. So if you have ideas and feedback, and you're already using Backlog or are interested in using Backlog, we'd love to hear from you. And yeah, again, we just want to reiterate that this is across any dispatch systems, whatever ticketing system you're using. We're integrating with it, so we're consolidating all into one place and trying to help you make your reporting lives easier.
Absolutely, Nick. And on that note, maybe I should mention, since we've got some folks on the call, if you're ever in Slabstack and you have a question because there's been an update and the interface has changed, or maybe you have a question about, hey, how's my backlog calculated, or something seems a little off because it's missing key pieces of data. This chat feature in the lower right-hand side is a great way to get a hold of the team. This does connect with real individuals based all in the United States, and many of you on this call know them personally because you deal with them often. But this chat with us is a great way to get a hold of us, and our team can see what's going on in the real time. And then something else Nick has rolled out very recently. Not only are our product updates here, so every Tuesday and Thursday, we are improving this platform, and you want to know, hey, what happened this week? Click on that product update. And if you're like me, I'm not reading this wall of text. Just a reminder, this link here where it says video overview, that does actually do a beautiful 90-second to 3-minute video that walks you through every change that we made and update to the Slabstack system. That is how I prefer to get my updates, is right here through this video link. Very, very user-friendly. And it's great for somebody with a short attention span like me. So,
and if real quick, Gage, if you are on the other end of the spectrum here and want to read all the nerdy details, scroll down to the bottom, and I also have a link to all the details there. So I know we have some technical folks on the call, and it's there for you.
That is a great call out. Sometimes you want to see the nitty gritty details. What is the reasoning behind it and how did you do it? And this is the comprehensive, encompassing release notes. And then we have the quick high level overview through each one of these bold points, followed by the description. And again, that video overview at the top. So that is kind of the Slab system. Again, I don't want to take up your entire Tuesday afternoon. So I'm going to get back out of the backlog and we are going to look at the slideshow again. So we're starting to wrap up. And so again, what we just went through is we're trying to bring this data that was difficult to consolidate and difficult to use in a digestible format. So now we want to bring that information. What projects are awarded, and are they performing correctly or are they underperforming? Whether that is variance across volume, quoted forecast discrepancy, whether it is too long unload and wait times, or are all of your projects and locations performing extremely well? And how do you replicate that success going forward? We also looked at those customer scorecards. We talked about the unload and wait times on job sites. Another thing that I didn't really talk about maybe too much, but I should here. Perhaps you have a customer that is always requesting a quote of, let's say, 500 yards, because once you get to 500 yards, you get a tiered price break, a tiered discount of $2 off per yard. Yet when you look at the actual volume shipped compared to backlog and forecast schedules, they only ever receive 350 yards. So where does that 150 remaining volume come from? Are they trying to get that volume discount at whatever tier it might be? And hopefully this data allows you to drill down quickly and have those conversations with the customer with the data to back it up. We also looked at that gap between the pipeline and production. Where is it widest? Is it a specific market? Is it a specific customer? Is it a specific plant? All of those things all of those different fields are easily digestible and apparent when using this backlog feature. And as we've discussed a few times, which plants are on track when it comes to maximizing the plant to its fullest capacity, its fullest utilization without stretching yourself too thin, right? We don't want to take too many jobs, award too much volume if we simply do not have the capacity. However, that's a good problem to have. And that is where the price optimization of the Slabstack quoting comes into play. We want you to be very picky about the profitability in the jobs you are pursuing, profitability over volume. So again, the backlog ties back into the core functionality in Slabstack, uses this data to quickly make these decisions on the fly. Another thing to talk about the backlog, it is baked directly into the Slabstack platform. It is not, you do not need to install anything else. You don't need to hire an admin to manage this software. And you also do not need to log in and use separate access, separate windows. It all happens back in that left-hand menu side we had open throughout the presentation. And again, it incorporates nicely into the workflow that you are used to using today. You do not need an admin or a management overhead. There's instant deployment for the team to go ahead and get this stood up and start reading that ticket data. And we also, as Nick mentioned in the beginning, we do have broad systems support. You can see there that we operate and integrate with quite a few of the most prevalent systems in the market today, from Concrete Go, Aggregate Go, arranging through some of these other systems down there that you can see on the right side of the screen. So a little bit about the product there. And I think that brings me to Malcolm to see what questions we can answer while we are here.
All right. So friendly reminder for everyone, if you do have questions, click the chat button, enter some Q&A. We'll see if we can get some real doozies here. So, and thank you to all that already did enter some questions. Got some really good ones. So Gage, Nick, you feeling ready?
Absolutely.
All right. So first one up, will it track associated products as well?
I take that one. So associated products is it's fully supported in Concrete Go, as I'm sure whoever asked the question is well aware. We're building out a feature set to enable tying your primary product to your associated products in Slabstack, supporting through the quoting workflow all the way through ticketing in Concrete Go or whatever dispatch you use. So as it stands today, any associated product is just its own product in all of our reporting. So there's no grouping of those today, but it's a good call out that we should think through how to group those associated products as we build that feature set here in the near future.
Wonderful. Great question. Okay. I ran into an excess of returned concrete to plant. Is this tracked?
You want to take that one, Nick?
It would be an interesting one to look at your specific case. I'm hesitant to give a solid answer because if it's an excess, yeah, it would just be one that I'd like to chat with whomever asked that question about offline. So I'll connect Malcolm with you. I assume you can see the names and we'll reach out.
I certainly can. Okay, we'll follow up on that one. Great question. Okay, next question. Can you enter 2 plants that would service one project and with a projected percentage of volumes?
Absolutely. Slabstack supports today multi-location quoting. And something important to call out is this is, again, also across product lines. So you might be shipping concrete from plant A while also shipping aggregates from quarry B. And we can do the multi-location quoting tied back to the correct system, all from one singular interface. And then we can track those different products and the different timelines when you get back into the backlog and look at the project drawer that opens up. So yes, we can absolutely pull and track this volume from multiple plants, multiple locations, all on one project, show you what of the percentage volume has been shipped, what remaining volume needs to ship. And then, of course, if there is any discrepancy between your quoted volume and the actual volume being shipped.
I have a project in alerts that tells me I need to mark as lost or update the start date, and the project is completed. How do I handle that?
That's a good one. Let me think about that. Without seeing it and without seeing the question written out, it's hard for me to track, but it might have to do with the status of the project. If it's marking it as lost, but the project is complete, perhaps we need to update that project status to complete.
Yeah, I agree. It's one that we should probably look at before we're trying to throw an answer at without really seeing the specifics of it. So that's another one that we can follow up with you about that one.
Okay, next up, and maybe we'll do two more. Does this show us dollars or just volume?
Yeah, it's volume only right now. Dollars would be an interesting lens to put over the data, but right now it's volume only.
Wonderful.
Yep. And then just a reminder, when you are in Slabstack, the quote statuses are tied to a dollar amount, even though the project in the backlog is showing volume.
Here's a great question. If I currently have my backlog tracked in a spreadsheet, how difficult is it to transition this to Slabstack backlog? And let me actually do this as a two-parter because there's another question here that I think is related to this one, which is, can we see our historical data from before we started using this? So the full context of the two questions together is, if you have been using a spreadsheet to track historical backlog, what would the transition look like if you wanted to start using backlog within Slabstack?
So as far as transitioning to using Slabstack's backlog, it's seamless. You need to just talk to your Sistine rep, and we can get it turned on for you. As far as importing historical stuff, when we turn it on for you, we do pull in a rolling amount of your ticket data and try and apply that to the Slabstack quotes and projects, so that there would be theoretically by default a subset of your data available. Now, we could talk in more detail and get sort of what scope you're looking at. Within reason, we could load more than what the default is so that all that is populated for you. But by default, depending on which dispatch system you're using, we're loading a preset amount of your old data.
Yep. And so this was an anonymous question, but it could be interesting to look at that specific spreadsheet and figure out whether it would be apples to apples with how backlog is displaying data. So, but I think the general answer is yeah. What do we need to set up on our end before this is useful?
You want to take that one, Nick?
Go right ahead.
There's really not any setup involved other than speaking with our team and making sure we toggle it. And then like Nick just touched on, like what's the scope of historical data we want to pool. And then it's also a good exercise in data hygiene, because as we looked at some of those alerts and actions, we'll turn on the backlog and all of a sudden you'll have a lot of projects that populate because they might be missing that end date. They might be missing that start date. So it is also a great way to get visibility in sales opportunities, your sales pipeline that might be missing that key piece of information to make sure the forecast and volume are accurately being displayed and tracked across not just the backlog, but all sales tools tied to Slabstack and how the reporting works, right? So again, very, very light lift to get this product up and running. Maybe a little bit of data hygiene involved just to ensure that the reporting and the output is accurate. And then from there, it is much easier to maintain a pipeline once you get everything in alignment and squared away.
So I can't help myself. I'm just going to ask one last question. And this one's coming from me. Gage, Nick, you all have been working with a lot of customers to get this live in their instances. I'm curious, beyond what you just shared, Gage, around the data hygiene, was there any other learnings or feedback as you kind of brought companies through managing or looking at their backlog through this lens?
I could just take one first part and then kick it over to Nick. I mean, so the team worked really hard on this at first, and I'm just going to be transparent. we were missing a key piece. And we learned about that key piece from our customers who got in the environment. And that was what we did look at today, is that this backlog pools volume that did not originate in Slabstack. So now all of that functionality exists just like you'd expect. But that was something that we learned through meeting with our customers and hearing their feedback. Nick and the team went back into the development room and, did whatever they do and hit the computer with the hammer and came back out and got it turned on. So that was definitely one piece of feedback that we've already upgraded the system. Anything else you can think of, Nick?
As far as specifics go, yeah. Things like your market salesperson filters, making sure that we're defining what the columns actually mean so that you as the user can understand them. We know what they mean, but we're the ones that build it. So all of that sort of speaks to our product philosophy as an organization as a whole. And I think that's worth calling out here, that we want to partner with you. You guys know what you need. You know what information would help you improve your operations, improve your margins. We like to think that we do as well, but you guys know better than we do. So we will a lot of times build something, introduce it to a subset of users such as yourselves, and get your feedback and quickly iterate on our product to get it to where you need it. So I say that to encourage you that if you do play around with Backlog or any other part of Slabstack or anything under the system umbrella, please give us your feedback, and we try to integrate your requests as quickly as possible in the broader scheme of our product roadmap. So again, just to summarize, our philosophy is to partner with you on building awesome products that help you improve your bottom line ultimately. So yeah, those
Well,
are some examples.
for sure. Well said, Nick. That it's absolutely worth reiterating. We are a partner, not just a vendor. And as this backlog is robust and accurate, I feel like it's a very important part of our full quote to cash cycle, which is, everything under Systine. We've got quoting through that dispatch, batching, truck tracking, telematics, and auto statusing, AR invoicing, as well as AI reporting tools. So that backlog is a very important piece.
Backlog is an add-on to the Slabstack offering. So if you are curious and seeing a demo and learning more, feel free to reach out to your Systine rep or go to slabstack.com, fill out the contact us form. We'll be in touch ASAP. We can do a demo configured to what you're looking to learn more about. But without further ado, I just want to say a big thank you to Gage, big thank you to Nick for hopping on, big thank you to you all for being here with us today. I know you're all busy. It's August. I'm sure you're in the thick of it. So really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days to be here with us. You will receive a recording of this in your inbox. So if there's anybody internally you want to share it with, we'll also post it on YouTube. So it'll be there if there's anything you want to kind of go back and rewatch. I think without further ado, I'll just wish you all a happy Tuesday. Have a great rest of the week. And best of luck. Talk to y'all later.
Like, stay safe, everybody.